Hello. Today I'm going to be continuing the series of sorts I've started on my channel, talking about different compositions. The first one being the Winston Goats 2 title on my channel, where I review Valiant Fusion, and the second one being the Poke compositions with the Roadhog, Sigma, and Ball, where I reviewed the Grand Finals match of the AL 2020 season. And today I'm doing two different matches. One, I'm returning to Valiant Fusion for a specific point at the end, but the the main map and the main focus of this video is a playoff match. I believe it was the what would have been it was a playoff game for Shock, and it was I think it was a semis. Yeah, it was a semis. Winners semis for San Francisco Shock versus Atlanta Reign, and this went to four maps. And on Havana, both teams. I started as I talk. Both teams opted to run something not super traditional on this map, and a lot of the time you'll see on this map different teams running snipers, like you'll see Widow, Ashe, and Hanzo with beforehand you would have seen an Orisa, but this time both teams opted to run Reinhardt, and as this was a while ago, I don't remember it fully entirely why. I do believe it was a counter strat. Um, Either Shock or Rain like to run this a lot, so both teams decided to mirror, and uh, this gets me into the focus of this video and what Gator and Super will end up playing, which is Reinhardt. I haven't really focused on Reinhardt at all because he's been in none of the videos really that I've covered. So this video will be about Reinhardt-based compositions, and Reinhardt's been a very classic hero to the game, as I'm sure many of you, the people watching, know. Very famous on King's Row, often run with the Zarya, and what the Zarya provides to the Reinhardt is an instant burst of protection and ability to push forward, and that provides Zarya with energy, so she can end up doing more damage. And the alts work okay together. You can pace them out throughout a fight to combo. They're very good combo alts, but that's a very classic way to run Reinhardt, is the Reinhardt Zarya. But different different teams and different strategies have developed around Reinhardt. Throughout earlier this year, Reinhardt was banished and not run as much because of Orisa being powerful, but Reinhardt is still a very good hero, and sometimes he falls by the wayside a bit. He was very popular during GOATs, and Reinhardt's a hero that requires a lot of support and really can't just sit there. He needs to get into the action to get value, to get swings in. So with Reinhardt, you'll often run Rush, and Rush would imply you just getting in their face. And a lot of this is just quite fast-paced gameplay with the Reinhardt. So I'll start it so we can see the compositions that both teams will run. So both teams are running very similar. Both teams on the Symmetra, Mei, Reinhardt, Moira, and Lucio. And Moira Lucio, helps. The Moira helps the Reinhardt with the burst of healing, the high burst of healing, and the Lucio can speed the Reinhardt around. Lucio and Reinhardt are, in my opinion, one of the most iconic duos of heroes in the game to get Reinhardt where he needs to be. Mei works very well to split up different compositions, so Reinhardt can bite off a piece that he can swallow and chew well, and the Symmetra works very well because she wants to get in very close with the combat, and can help TP the Reinhardt to get to places where he needs to be. And the differences that we'll see in this comp is the D.Va versus the Zarya, and Shocker opting for the more well-known synergistic combo with the Reinhardt Zarya, and Atlanta Reign are running Gator and Hawk on the Reinhardt D.Va, and the D.Va allows for her to eat a lot more damage and spam that may come out with the composition that they may be expecting. But how it works with the matchup between the D.Va and the Zarya is that the Zarya can apply a lot more instant burst, and that allowed the team running the Zarya to get a lot more space initially, and the D.Va can have a hard time dealing with that as she cannot mitigate any of the damage the Zarya puts out, and that can allow for a hard time for the team not running the Zarya and having to deal with the bubbles while not having a Zarya of their own to do that. But however, it can work if you run it correctly. But at this level, I think it's just better for Hawk to swap to the Zarya, and I feel he ends up doing that. So, Shock are coming out the left door at first, and they have the Symmetras. So, I'm going to assume that they may TP, and it appears they do. So they go from here to here, and that is to get out of any choke that Lanter hoping to hold with Shock maybe coming out the right door, but they don't end up doing that. So they end up TPing here, and that allows them to escape any chokehold that Atlanta Reign want to establish early on. But now Shock have the advantage here, and the fight starts to break out. So here, I'm going to start by watching both Reinhardts in particular. And how they do. They plan to do. Very basic. As you can see, both Reinhardts are in front of everyone, and that's very important because Reinhardt has a lot of health, and he has the shield to block everything. That's very basic, but always make sure that as Reinhardt, you're in front of your team, not anywhere behind. You should be the first one. You should see no one except the enemy. So, we saw a good example of what I was talking about there, from Gage's perspective. So the bubble comes out, and that allows Super to walk forward aggressively. But Super walks forward too aggressively, and he ends up getting walled off by Erster, and he manages to escape the skin of his teeth, and by Super's Mei wall from On's coming out, and Super ends up killing Erster somehow. We'll look at that when we look at Super's POV. But it traps everyone. But Shock have very good peel and are prepared, for a situation like that coming out from Atlanta. So they peel off an attack. They get rid of the attack that Atlanta Reign want to run. So we'll go over to Super and we'll watch his perspective of that. So he gets the bubble. Let's rewind a bit. He gets the bubble. Erster gets the Mei wall. Pushes up very aggressively in front of his Rein. And Ons gets the wall, and then Super gets the pin. Sometimes that stuff is calculated. For better teams, you could expect that stuff. And Shock being the best, you can expect maybe that was meant to happen, but a lot of the time it's not meant to happen. But regardless, it was still good. A wall to save Super, and his team gets very good peel off, and Atlanta Reign are uncoordinated what to do after. They didn't seem to. They all kind of rushed forward, and they had their plan of, well, let's wall off whoever we can wall off on Shock, and then we'll see where we can go from there. And they got peeled off by On's amazing Mei wall. Who would have thought one of the best Widows in the world can play one of the best Meis? So no ultimates are coming up except the Coalescence, and I'll take this time to talk about Coalescence, as Moira is a very common hero you'll see in these compositions. Moira has the often the fastest charging ult in this composition, as both Moiras are at 80% to their ult, and everyone else is lagging behind a little bit, especially for Reign. But As a lot of damage is taken, Moira can pump out a lot of healing, and she gets her ult very fast because of that. And the ult, I like to use it to push up very aggressively as it goes through everyone on the enemy team, and you can stack up a lot of damage. You'll often see it used in a grav, and your team can get a lot of healing from that as they push into the grav, and yeah, it's just used to push aggressively. It's a very cheap ult, and it provides a lot of healing and sustain for whoever. So we'll probably end up seeing that from both teams multiple times. So as you can see, both teams are looking to push forward with their ults. Gator gets somewhat caught out here, and Violet just popped his. And they're aimed at the Reinhardts, who are looking to push forward the most aggressively here in the front of the fight. So let's take a look at the Moiras that fight and how they look to keep their Rhines alive. Or actually, let's just look at Violet to see how he kept his Rhine alive, because he's the one who succeeded in doing so. So he looks to heal up Choi first. So if we go back for a bit, not everyone's necessarily lined up on the shock. Not everyone's in a straight line. This coalescence goes, or how it operates. Heals up Choi first, but the main focus and what Violet wants to do is help out Super and help him aggress, and succeeds in doing so. So, although Moira is criticized for being a very basic hero, which she is in comparison to other heroes, in the comp especially, but it's a very crucial part and having the Moira stay alive and provide that sustain for everyone. But Shock just seemed very much more coordinated throughout the middle of the fight. And Atlanta Rain are going to look to engage with the wall, and the wall is a very interesting alt in the comp, because the shields, like the Symmetra shield and like Reinhardt's shield, will block healing that is put through. So if a Moira is standing here and then a Reinhardt is standing here, the Reinhardt will not get healed because the shield blocks the spray. So playing around the wall can cause a lot of stress for the enemy team having to deal with it a lot of the time. So usually you have to end up sticking on one side of the wall so you can get the healing. So it's just let's let this fight play out. So we see after a fight where there's just 3 ults used, we see a lot more ultimates used, and we'll break down the ultimate usage here. And we'll also break down what happens here with 5 of the Atlanta Rain, or 4 rather, coming through to this side, and then Edison coming through the other side, and then he gets slowed down by a turret, and then everyone else on Shock just looks at him for a second, and then they instantly get a pick, and that's a lot of damage down for Shock. Or, sorry, for Rain. And the first ult is the Grav from Choi, and the Beat, which is what Belucio's ult is commonly used for, to counter the big ults that happen. And in this case, it would be the Grav that Masa would be looking to counter and save his team from. That's a very standard interaction. So So Gator looks to use his Shatter, and how Shatters work in this composition or typically work, or can work, I'd say, is, we'll watch Gator do it here. So we'll slow it down a bit. So the Grav comes out. He knows Super's going to look to push aggro. And he's going to look to swing, meaning he cannot block the Shatter. And everyone piles behind the Reinhardt, which is why you see Violet get caught here. And he's not behind any other cover. And Striker gets caught. Because you have to trust your Reinhardt and stay behind him. And that's the correct thing to do. But if a Reinhardt gets too aggressive, wants to swing into the Grav to get a lot of damage off. And that's how a lot of the damage gets off and charges the Reinhardt's ult by swinging into the Grav. Gator ends up recognizing that from Super and gets a Shatter off, and it does not seem to do anything. But Moth realizes that I need to, this can be losing for us, so I need to beat this to keep us up and sustain us throughout the fight, which is what Lucio's for, pretty much. You know, saving, very much a saving support with his ult. And he ends up saving his team here and allows them to keep up in the fight. And both Blizzards come out, which is kind of actually not something I didn't notice through everything that happened there. We catch when that happened. So both are caught at the same time as you see everyone's grouped up. Good time to get the Blizzard off. Choi gets an amazing bubble. Super dies, but everyone else is very coordinated still. And Edison's still just coming back. So Shock still ending up being the better team through mid-fight coordination and just keeping a steady head up high throughout these fights. So both teams engaging. Shocker set up on the high ground and having Moth push the card at first. So the coalescence comes out from both sides. Striker gets picked off. Super gets a nice pin off. Picks trading very much. So you'll notice both teams swapped over to the McCree here. Oh, never mind. That was just a turret. Yeah, that doesn't matter. The turret doesn't matter, Daz. So Edison swapped over to the McCree, and the McCree provides quite a lot of value as well with the good damage, the consistent damage. The Deadeye, which we'll see examples of throughout the map later on once the Deadeyes get charged. And there's the common combo of using a McCree's Flashbang and a Shatter to pull off a combo. So you'd send the Flashbang above a Rein shield, and that would stun the Reinhardt for a second. That window of opportunity where the Reinhardt is stunned, the Reinhardt can get your Reinhardt can get a Shatter off if it's your McCree flashing as well, and that can be a simple combo for everyone at home, and can be applied quite commonly. So let's try to break down each death that happens here. Why does it happen? Striker ends up taking a lot of the brunt of the damage and is caught out of position a bit. So Shocker end up pushing down here, and it's important that everyone else is following the Rein still, because if the Rein ends up dropping, you lose the shield and the Reinhardt is out of the fight if the fight's still happening up here. And it's important that everyone else drops, and you have to follow your team and kind of stick together. You have to stick together like a unit. So Super is looking to push out Hawk here. Ends up getting a pin on Edison. Gator almost takes out. Super ends up being too low. Moss is picked off. And then everyone else on Chalk is just quite noticeably more coordinated. The Striker swaps to the McCree as well. Actually, I'll go back, and I think that was a good example of mentioning pinning in this comp is the Reinhardt, and how and when to pin. Beat up a second here. So pinning, obviously there, got a lot of initial. You burst forward, as you can see, Super here does here, and you do a lot of damage. 300 damage can kill the majority of people in the Reinhardt comps. 4 people usually, everyone except the tanks, but it's very risky because you leave yourself vulnerable, and if you go too far ahead, then you leave your team susceptible to everything. So Super goes here, ends up getting the pin on Edison, but he was getting the tanks low, so he wanted to go for a pin here to try to finish them off. And getting a tank is very important because they take a lot of the brunt of the damage, or that's what they should be doing. But Gator sees Super against the wall here, but Super backs up to the main area, so he doesn't end up getting hit by the wall. But Gator goes for a desperation pin here and ends up getting him killed as well. So it was a 5v6 original, 6 for originally 6 for Shock, but then Gator kind of just seals his fate there by pinning in. And that's an example of don't do that. He was at like 100 HP. Super ends up dying, but everyone else on Shock is still ready and raring to go. But a lot of Atlanta Rain were probably assuming, oh, the fight's over. And the Zarya provides a lot more cleanup value than the D.Va does, with the amount of damage that you can output at such high energy. We're gonna see ults coming out here. So both the Grav and the Mei ult are used here, right at the door, and that's also something that is notable about Shock and important for the Reinhardt compositions as well. Back up so we can actually see something here, hopefully. There's the concept of initiative or playing proactive in Overwatch and in this comp, which is important with the aggressive natures. And the call there is made, all right, we can push up. So the wall is perfect from Ons. Perfect wall. So both ults are used because they realize, oh, they're going to be right up against the wall. So we can get someone with the Grav and the Blizzard. And we can split up Gator. Everyone else gets bundled up together. Masa does not have his beat. He is not close. Dogman does not have his coalescence. It's not really close enough to end up saving anyone here. So Shock should end up getting the kills as they have the initiative here. So they catch Atlanta Rain by surprise by going so early and getting such a good wall off. And they end up killing 2 there, which is enough. They kill the 2 most important members of this comp, arguably, the Lucio and the Reinhardt. So Atlanta Rain cannot go in, and 2 other members on the team are very low, and everyone's used their cooldowns on Rain. So there's no way they can get a fight here, and then everyone else will go for cleanup while Moth is on the cart. So initiative and acting fast definitely won the fight there, and then they end up getting a wall off and continue the aggression to get Gator. And yeah, the kills are just gonna happen. Shock being relentless, as they are known to be, and why they are the 2-peat for the champions, and what they were very known for in GOATs, playing aggressive and being relentless. selfless for their teammates. Haha. So the high noon comes out here. Pretend the wall didn't happen actually, because that ruins my example. The fuck-ons. That's rude. So the high noon happens here, and the high noon, if there's enough people behind the Rhine shield, it can break the Rhine shield, and it will break through the Rhine shield. So it depends on the health of the Rhine shield, and if there's if everyone was behind it, it would count their health too, and it would break through the Rhine shield if there was if it was low enough and there was enough bodies behind it, enough HP pool behind it to break through. And you can't risk that really, because if the high noon's going off, the cob will be made shoot the Rhine shield, so the Rhine shield will be low, and if they aren't behind the Rhine shield, they'll die to the high noon. And if they aren't, because they don't want the Rhine shield to break, and even if the Rhine shield breaks, you can get the shatter off. So a lot can go wrong for a team that doesn't have a proper counter to high noon. They'll get caught out, provides a lot of space. Like Shock, you notice they're like, oh shit, there's high noon, and you have to be careful of it. And it provides quite a lot of value here. And if you're allowed to make space and create angles for your McCree to get the high noon off, it can be of the most impactful ult at times in the comp. But Ons gets a very good wall off and blocks that entirely, and McCree's slow as fuck. So he can't really maneuver around the wall at all, and Choi provides a bubble just to look to block the damage, but Striker ends up getting caught out. And, you know, a lot's going on here. The Rhine's going to press forward, so you have to pay attention to the Rhine, you have to pay attention to the coalescence, you have to pay attention to the high noon. A lot can happen, so you have to be very mindful of what's happening here. So we'll look at the skulls and what happens while Edison high noons help my explanation here. So he almost gets Ons, and all these skulls are building up with the circles. And Striker peeks. He gets a bit too crazy there and ends up peeking. So that gets him caught out and loses a lot of damage. But Super gets an amazing shatter. Gator's not careful enough. That gets 3 people behind. Super playing the mind games. I'll get into that into another video because it's a very important concept with Reinhardt as a hero. And I'll look to get into that when I get to my main tank part of my explaining the role series or whatever I'll call it. But gets an amazing shatter off. Gets 2 from that, but Masa looks to beat to save it. Gator's frozen, and then yeah, he's down his he's down his Zarya, which Hawk ends up swapping to, and everything just crumbles through there. Shock getting the most important picks there, getting the Mei, and I believe it was the Moira in that shatter. The Mei and the Zarya. Sorry, not the Moira. And then the beat is just all for nothing because Gator's just, there's no one left to save him. He has no Mei to support him with the walls. He has no Zarya to support him with the bubbles. So, I mean, yeah, it's done for. Nothing else can happen. So the high noon cap happens here. And the Grav is great. It's a bit mistimed. Could have gotten someone, but still, everyone else is split. From the Atlanta Rain. It's a really good Grav, and you can just chuck it. Super gets a great pin onto Masa. They're able to burst down Hawk as he's alone in the Grav. And then from there, Shock are just able to snowball. And to my knowledge, if you were to just excuse me for a second. I do believe that is the fastest Havana time uh, in the Overwatch League thus far. I am fairly certain. And I can find out right now. So yeah, that you may think, oh, 2:39. I think that's what it was. That's not very fast, but it is for such a long map. It is quite fast. Yes, that is the fastest time. Havana by Havana. The other records are 2:35 by Atlanta Reign themselves against Gladiators, and then the fifth fastest time, which is the lowest time there, is 1:53 from the Gladiators going against the Reign. So not blisteringly high time banks. This is a very long and stretched out map, and there's many opportunities for the defenders to stop. But that was a pretty convincing snowball from the Shock, and you can't expect anything else really, as they are who they are. So we move on to the defense here. So Shock are gonna look to you got spoiled. So Shock are gonna look to not have that happen to themselves. They do not want to get their newly established record, beaten in the same map. So they're going to look to ward off the rain. So both teams not opting for the Symmetra at first because they kind of seen each other's playbooks and they know, well, I mean, we know they're going to do that. And a lot of Symmetra is the surprise element. So they're just going to opt for the McCree at first. And Atlanta just go straight out the door, and Shock are right there, all up top. And a lot of damage is put through, and you can see probably how fast Edison is bursted down when the gates open. So they just all end up shooting. Yeah, Fire Strike, I think, hits there, and then Moth is the lucky recipient of the final blow. So yeah, just a lot of focus, and then the May wall to close it off is like, nope, we're not letting you out. And then Gator actually gets caught inside the spawn, and then they're just like, we're not letting you get out, no mercy. So they end up getting Hawk as well, and then they get Erster, who's in the ice block. So no mercy, just get the kill, and then they realize, all right, we'll lock them up in there, try to get whoever else we can, and then get the ult charge and get the kills. And Shock are not holding back. They see it Rain going through the left door. And then Ons is just on point. You can see these walls just getting succeeding, in splitting up the Atlanta Reign very much. The wall doesn't fit quite here, but it leaves a small opening for Rain to get through. And Shock end up getting picked here, and then Edison cleans up. So we'll watch the Reinhardt here because, to my knowledge, Gator ended up setting his team's pace. Good Fire Strike. And the wall ends up catching Super. And he ends up getting split from his team, and everyone else is behind the wall. So the wall comes out. Doesn't end up getting anyone, actually. And then Super gets caught on very low health, and it's great target focus from the Rain there. And they get the flashbang off. Probably end up seeing it as I rewind one more time. Shooting the Rhine. Flashes forward. Yeah, gets the flash above the shield. Perfect. You don't always have to combo that with a shadow. You can flash and then get a burst of damage off of the Rhine. And you can allow for your team to get the upper hand there. Even one 10-second ability can win you a fight, which can lead to so many different things. So, very good from the Rain there to set off a nice start to the map on their attack. and Shock are looking to come back here. Look to go up top, or at least bait. So they sit in the stairway for the amount of time that it would take for them to go up top, but they don't all go up top. I say all because Striker looks to get a nice angle here, and with the Reinhardt comps, one of the weaknesses of it is that you can't really, you can go straight forward very fast, but there's not anyone really here besides the Lucio to go up and contest any high grounds. So Striker ends up going up top here, and then they catch him out, call him out to his team, and he's able to get some shots in from above, and the Reinhardt shield can not block everything. So Striker's in a very good position right now as Shock, or the rest of Shock, look to push forward using the cart as cover, which is very important. Cart is anything like this. A cart wall is the best shield in the game. It cannot be broken. It can block a shatter. This cannot. Don't. This, you will get shattered under this. Don't fall for it. Yeah, so these are very important. If you don't have a Rein available to you, even if you are a Rein and you want to use and you don't have your shield, you can use a wall to play behind. Like, you can just pivot behind, like, around the wall, kind of just to charge your shield and, you know, block all of the damage without using your shield, because your shield is a very precious resource. And a great wall happens. Doesn't matter because the speed boost is there from Masa. High Noon doesn't get anything. The bubble is used from Shock, which is important. And that's another point. There's so many different little things in these compositions that matter so much. The bubble is used, and as a Zarya player myself, I like to bubble second if I can a lot of the time, because a lot of Zaryas will, when their Reinhardt goes in or gets pushed, they will bubble first, and they bubble early. And what you can tell your Reinhardt to do, or if you're playing Rein, you can tell your Zarya to do this, is to wait. And if the bubble comes out from the enemy team first, it's like they don't have any way to block damage, and that's a downside of Zarya's. Once the bubbles are used, she has no other way of protecting her team. The projected bubbles on an 8-second cooldown, and her personal bubbles on a 10-second cooldown. So once those bubbles are used, you have to wait that time. There's no other protection that Zarya can provide. So once that bubble's used, you can use that bubble, or once that bubble's used, then you can use your own bubble to push forward, and there's no way to the enemy has of blocking any damage that is put forward. So I'll reinstate that again, just make sure you heard it, because it's very important, especially as a Zarya Reinhardt player. If you get the enemy Zarya to bubble early, or you force it out, if you get them to force it out, you can wait, or you can keep going and you can bubble second, and that allows you to get the upper hand in the pace, because they cannot block any damage and you have that bubble there, so you can push again second. Or you can just end up bubbling first and you just rush through and you don't care what happens. But I find the advice I just gave to be very useful in ladder play more often than structured team play and scrims, because you can't really predict, or you may not be able to tell your Reinhardt that. So find out where you can use that advice. So the Coalescence comes out late from Dogman, as he does not have it at first, and it works out in their favor. So Striker's struggling to find an angle here, as the Atlanta Reign are playing right under him. So as you can see, he's trying to pry an angle out, but he's struggling very much so to get that to happen. And so he just ends up dropping. A flashbang comes out from Striker. It doesn't just result in anything. So the Coalescent doesn't provide anything, but the flashbang from Edison is huge. If we can watch that again. It is huge. So he's looking for it. He gets the flashbang right at him, and that not even a second allows for Super to die. And then the Coalescence comes out second for Dogman, and that allows them to clean up everything else. So Edison loves his flashbangs, and that seems to be what Atlanta Reign are winning a lot of their fights off of. So Shock are gonna have to do something about that, and that's what they do best. Figure out what you do and stop it. So ways you can stop that is if you're running a diva, you can obviously eat it, but if you can watch the McCree, and as the Reinhardt, you can flip your shield upwards. You can just flick it upwards, just jet your mouse upwards, and you can block it, actually. But the downsides of that are it leaves you open for a shatter from below, so you can't block below. But if you're fast enough, you can flick upwards to block the flashbang, and then you can flick back down to block a shatter that may come out or any damage coming from below. And the McCree can predict that you'll go up, so he'll look up and kind of bait you upwards, or bait you to look upwards, and it'll flash down, and then you can get the damage off of the shatter. And you can it's just a constant cycle of predicting, and it's a lot of mind games with that. Reinhardt has to play a lot of mind games. The other way to block the flashbang would be to save a bubble, and or save a Zarya bubble for your Reinhardt. So I mean, yeah, flashbang can't do anything. Or you can play very aggressively, and you don't give any won't give any room for the McCree to look for a flashbang, and just push aggressive. And you can do that with the coalescences. It's best use for. And by moving around while I'm explaining this, I noticed Edison going from behind, and he's gonna look for something to happen. Striker gets picked off somehow. You have to be very careful peeking at all during these comps, because you can be lucky winner of a few bullets. Yeah, the fire strikes, and then he super drops his shield for a second. So Edison's hiding under, still waiting. Ons tries to get a wall off, but nothing happens, and Super's kind of just trying to look big here. You know, like, don't approach me, because Land of Rain, no. Well, they're still down. Oh, Jesus. I love the spectator tool. It's so good. They know that Striker's going to be coming back, but they're still down. So you have to look big and make sure that they can't push in. So many things happen. Jesus. Striker comes... Okay, so we'll have to look at different things here, because so much happens. We just heard so much. So Edison knows Striker's coming back, so he gets that kill. Violet chases Edison. So we'll watch this part of the fight at first. A lot of the time that could be a really bad play if you don't read the pace of the fight, or you don't trust your teammates to play without the Moira for a split second there. So Violet looks to look down there, but it doesn't even matter. So we'll look at how these kills actually happened at first, and what ults were used. So Grav was used from both sides. Blizzard was used, so both Blizzards and both Gravs were used. So both teams put each other in the same position, and Moss's beat is used. And Moth times his beat as well. So 6 ultimates are used at first. So both Gravs are used, then both Blizzards are used, then both beats are used. So both teams doing their protocols of, all right, this is what we got to do. And the bubbles, both bubbles coming out is too. So, and you can use the bubbles to stop the freezing ticks. It will reset it entirely if someone's caught in a blizzard. So both people, good chunk of people are frozen. The kill happens onto Striker there. Edison walks walks forward, and the bubble from Super, or the bubble from Choi, is perfect to allow the freeze ticks to stop, and that gets enough damage off to get a kill there. Super gets a beautiful block, expecting the shatter from Gator. And Gator is at a crippling HP, so Super can push forward. And Violet's coming back just to heal him in the nick of time. And again, Gator getting picked off means the end of things. Unless Choi gets caught out, not behind the Rhine shield, and the Coalescence is used, and Super gets a shatter. So Dogman coalesces because they think, oh wait, we can get a kill here, which they can. Choi gets killed. Super shatters, doesn't get anything. Super charges in. A great wall from Ons to split off anyone trying to come back easily. And they should be able to get a kill off of this. Yeah, Super kills Edison. Super's very low. Dies. Ons dies. So yeah, Gator was able to come back, and Super went in may arguably a bit too aggressively at the end there. Went for some went for the sneakers, as one would say. So he gets a burst of damage coming out from angles being taken on him. So yeah, the Rhine is gone, everything falls apart, and you'll notice that throughout the entire review, that the Rhine is gone, shit falls apart. Because the Rhine is the face, literally, of the composition. It's the front. It's what you see first. So, Brain, they have a good time. Not likely to beat any records, but... Or, not the best record, but... Shock come out very fast, and Striker swaps to the Reaper. I didn't notice that. I forgot Reaper was played here. So Reaper, you get rid of any utility that you can use for your team with the flashbang, and you could just go in aggressively. You just shotguns ablazing. You can burst down the Reinhardt a lot, does a lot of damage, and the Blossom can be a very good ultimate to pair with a bubble or a shatter. And yeah, you just walk in, press W, just go in. So the wall happens. Doesn't matter because they're like, oh shit, Striker's here on the Reaper, as he won last year with. So the wall happens. There's a bubble. Pretty alright bubble. And then Urster just it comes from behind, goes for a flank on the Mei, and gets freeze off onto Super, which allows him to get to half health and kills him. Striker ends up behind. Edison gets Choi. The Grav comes out. And that's where everything else falls apart. So, Striker's behind. And they know they want to... So, I can imagine that they think, alright, we got what we needed. The High Noon comes out from Edison. Actually, is he dead yet? Where is he? He's just inside everyone. Oh, he's there. He's gonna die. That was dumb. And then they realize, oh shit, we can invest the Grab here and it's winnable. Very winnable. And Hawk doesn't even get it yet. They don't have it. I thought he had it at the end. So, yeah. Getting ults just in the nick of time there to save things. And Shocker, they seem very fluent in throughout the mid fight. That's kind of cool. Throughout the mid fight and throughout the entirety of the fight, they have very good engagements, and they're able to keep that coordination and very good pacing throughout the middle of the fight, which is a lot of teams lack. They can get the good plan off in the middle, but then they don't. Their teams don't understand how to play in the middle of the fight and keep coordinated, and understand how to keep it going, how to clutch out the mid fights if the fights do end up lasting that long. So the Coalescence comes out early, and then the Super gets walled again. He's getting caught out a bit here. Bubble. Shouldn't matter. The pin happens. Mothia gets in the grab as well. So very good plan to from Atlanta Rain to counter the aggression they expect from Shock here. As the Coalescence comes out early, they catch Super with the wall, and they grab him because they really need this fight here. And yeah, they invest the Coalescence and the grab. Pretty good ult. Pretty good ult. Bank still remaining as well. But you can never ever think it's over against Shock. It's never over until everyone's dead. So yeah, Super Sight. No, there's no way. No point. You don't want to feed him all charge. There's no point in coming back here. So they leave it. They're like, all right, we can win it here. We can finish off the series, advance to the winners finals. We got it here, guys. Don't worry. Ons almost dies. So both teams are looking to engage. Super takes a lot of damage. The Blizzard comes out. That almost is really bad news. So very good wall here, and a lot of the time the thought process behind these walls is they're gonna Blizzard ult here, or they're gonna aggress early, and then we can wall to take advantage of the aggression that comes out. It's a perfect wall spot. Fits perfectly, actually. But Shock end up escaping. So like, oh shit. So the speed boost, the speed boost from Moth is saved there for the Blizzard, which is very smart, and you have to save that, and you have to know that, oh shit, we're not going to be able to get out of this if we don't have speed boost, and you need to be able to save speed boost and communicate to your team, I need to save speed boost because they have Blizzard so we can get out of it. And I noticed the tech, I've been waiting for this throughout the entirety of the fucking map to bring up, is a little Zarya tech that is quite important, actually, from Choi here. So Blizzard's used, turns right around, and he jumps out, and obviously he's gonna rocket jump because that makes him go faster, and he has the speed boost as well. But if you are in the very middle of a Mei freeze, and if you rocket jump, you can get out of the middle of the Blizzard. I am very certain of that, actually. There's 1% chance I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. You can get out of the middle of the Blizzard, so make sure to rocket jump with Zarya if you're in the middle of a Blizzard or anywhere in the Blizzard so you can get out of it. So anyway, the peel backwards from Shock is good. They know we've expended an ult from them. So they're going to be looked at, all right, it's our turn now. You guys fucked up. So the Blizzard comes in from Ons here, and that allows them to aggress forward. A good bubble from Choi, and Striker comes from behind. Gets booped away. Beat comes out from Masa. Choi dies. Gator gets killed. It's a mess of things. So let's try to break that down. So the High Noon is used as well. I didn't notice that. They get the High Noon off. I don't know if I like that even. I would have maybe liked it if... I mean, it kind of... Yeah. I don't know. I would have liked the High Noon maybe if there was some people frozen. I would have waited for it a bit. So the wall comes off, try to get people. It's a split here. Masa notices the TP. So the Shatter comes out from Gator to try to repel some of the aggression from Shock. Doesn't matter. There's a bubble and a shield there from Super. Super predicts that, and he does it in his dream. So Striker comes from behind, gets booped, so he's not able to come from behind with any value. And the beat comes from Masa, which is a very good beat because there's a lot of aggression, a lot of attack coming out from Shock here with the Blizzard, the bubbles, the TP from behind from Striker, the Coalescence. So Choi actually gets pinned. Can we see that? Yeah, he ends up getting in front of his Ryan here, gets too aggressive, and then gets caught by a Mei wall too. And he gets way too low from that. Gator gets frozen from the Mei ult, I'm pretty sure. Or it's just a freeze. I don't know. He gets frozen. Yeah, just by Mei freeze, I think. Or whatever, it doesn't matter. He gets frozen. Super gets stunned by Edison. Gator dies. And there's a really good grab from Choi just as he dies. Hawk grabs as well, and there's a coalescence from Super, but Striker comes in with the finishing touch, and Blossom is a very good ultimate to clean up a lot of the time, because there's a lot that can counter the Death Blossom from Rain here. There's a boop, there's fade, there's speed boost, there's bubbles, there's shield, there's wall, there's freeze, there's ice block, there's flashbang, there's high noon. There's so much that can counter a Death Blossom, and just in this comp alone, like there's so much, and a lot of the time these abilities are going to be used. Like the flashbang was just used there to get some damage off onto Super, and at the end of the fight, even towards the middle of it, a lot of this stuff is going to be used. So if you don't keep track of it, or if you keep track of it on the Reaper, if you're playing the Reaper, then you're able to get the Death Blossom, because all the abilities that can be used to stop your Blossom are gone because they were used. And that was the case here. So Striker's able to get the highlight clip there for his team. So it's the first time in a while no one has ults. The closest ult is Edison at 60%. Everyone else is like under 50 for the Rain. Everyone else on the Shock is under 50. So it's going to be a dry fight at the beginning. The high noon will come out, but dry fight. So Shocker looking for a good engage. They're looking for a wall here. Bubble was used. Did Choi use his bubble? He did not. So Hawk uses his bubble prematurely, in my opinion, here, because Gator just goes in for a second and just wants to get some cleave there, and realizes he gets low, so the bubble doesn't even do anything. I would have liked there to see Choi to read that. I mean, Super almost does die, so fair enough, but it wasn't needed entirely. The flashbang goes off. Super takes a shit ton of damage, and the wall comes off. So again, Rain using the flashbang. Shock win? See how that happens. So I'm not sure myself. Okay, go back a bit more. So the bubble comes out to try to save Super. Good flashbang, and that's what Rain are going in off of. And then they get the wall off, but they manage to stay alive. And there's a wall from Ons to save himself. Try to get someone maybe. Hawk wants to sandwich himself in between here. Violet's low, and then they all manage to kind of, they do manage to escape from the high noon, and then Edison gets caught by an icicle because he ends up out in the middle of the open, and Gator does not get the save support from his team, and then they send in the Blizzard just to secure everything there. So again, kind of I guess a read. I don't know if there's necessarily they knew the flashbang was going to happen there, but they did end up countering it very well. They countered the aggression that they expected from Rain there very well with a wall. You can just watch it back. It's in its entirety. So the flashbang comes out. Good peel. High noon. Edison's caught in the middle of the open, and they don't end up saving Gator. Shock just very much in unit with Super, to me, is what it seems. Very much in unit with him, and very much listening to his calls, and kind of letting him direct things. And now they're like, all right, we can win this. We got like 80 seconds. We can just hold you here. Coalescence comes out. They're a bit scared. Oh, from both sides. And there's a really good wall, but a even amazing beat from Moth. Oh, that shatter. So wait. Super's half HP. Gets saved barely by the beat. Just to keep him alive. And they're ready to go in, but Super gets caught. How does this happen? What's going on? What's going on, Super? Barely just drops his shield. Edison didn't flash that, did he? Nope. It was just a really good shatter. Barely coming off. And yeah, it's just a huge shatter. Yeah, sometimes those happen. Striker gets 2 kills. Jesus, that guy's king of clutch. Sometimes those are winnable for Shock because you don't get everyone. Their players know what to do at the right moments. So, nowhere near getting any record times. They just need to finish the map. And this is their last opportunity to do it. So, Shock have the high ground. Striker teleports to the other side. Try to get in some damage from another angle. The grab comes out first. Oh. What the fuck was that? That was just bad. Does that... Yeah, that doesn't catch anyone. I guess he was thinking, I want to shoot Striker, but he also had to ult to grab. And, I mean, of course Striker's gonna have Wraith. So that fucks up for them. Moth gets caught, clipping the shield. The beat comes out from Masa. Let's just get a better angle. CHB gets caught. Choi comes from high ground late. Gets Edison. So he's ends up behind. Ursa goes for a flank. Gets Striker. Supers tries to get the shatter off. I mean, that's the right play. Really, but he barely lives. So Shock have 4 up. Rain have 5, so it's a 4v5. Violet dies and uses his ult. It's desperation moment here. I mean, you have to. On stalls, gets the wall, ends up living. Gets a bubble from Choi, who takes the fucking longest flank. How close is that? Zon ends up staying alive through that? Yeah, he stays up. He wants to build this blizzard. Choi barely gets alive. Moth dies. Ons gets his blizzard. The pin goes off on the Super. Choi gets a kill on the dog, man. Striker's back with the Blossom. Violet comes back with the Baptiste. Oh, that Blossom was huge. Oh, massive shatter. Oh, like the amount of time, like I was saying, like towards the end of that, like fucking, oh, the pin comes off, like we just gotta watch that. Ons ends up living for a second too long there. I mean, we could watch that in slow-mo. The pin goes off. The kill on Dogman is huge. They don't get the coalescence. Striker's just alive. And then Violet gets the high ground and is just able to heal his team. Just like seconds mattered there. Man, dude, Shocker. Shocker, good. I mean, if you didn't know, Shocker pretty good. So it's a very, very long map there. But one more point. And I reviewed this, but I want to review it again in this video and talk about this. So, as you'll notice from that, you know, Reinhardt's can be, you just go in, it's a lot of fast-paced action, but what's a different take on Reinhardt? You know, what's something fun, funky we can do? Funcy, that's not a word. So you'll notice Symmetra's here. You know, everyone else is here, but Sigma is here. Okay, a bit different. You know, may seem to make sense. But the Junkrat is here, and that has become, you know, in the past, I'd say, few months, quite a staple pick for this point. And this has been a Reinhardt point. You know, it's very flat. You know, very much high ground. For like a dive comp with a monkey or a diva to contest, so it works well with Reinhardt. But the Junkrat works perfectly here because there's so many different angles you can split off. It's very easy for him to control this area, which is where the Junkrats end up controlling. A lot of spam angles, a lot of things to bounce, a lot of close walls to use. So both teams end up coming out in the Junkrat, and one team coming out in the Sigma, and then one team coming out on the Zarya. So I've talked about Zarya with Ryan, you know, the instant protection, the burst that you can get, the instant aggression, the big pow at the start of the fight. But Sigma is very interesting here on this comp, and it ends up being a double shield comp, and Sigma can use his shield to provide long-term or much longer-term protection for the Reinhardt. You can shield in front to block a lot of damage that comes forward, and a lot of spam damage, and help keep the Ryan healthy over long term. And you have the Suck, which is like a defense matrix, but you know, keeps yourself healthy, and you can use it to block from a lot of the Junkrat spam. Zarya right clicks, fire strikes, a lot of the spam damage coming in. And you have the stun, which is very useful. It's like a flashbang almost. And you know, the gravitic flux works very well like a graviton surge to get those fight wins, and gets out the beats. But Sigma can suffer against the rush, as he has nothing to really counter it. Like he can't really grasp a ride swing. That doesn't make any sense. You know, shield doesn't do anything. You can't, you know, rock will matter for maybe a second, but you know, Sigma suffers from that burst that Zarya has with the bubbles and the damage she can have over that brief instance. And so if you play very aggressively, Sigma can't really do anything about it. You know, he's not what he used to be able to block that, and he can get run over. It's a lot more fragile here. So both teams, this is actually interesting because this is one of the only points, if not the only point in the game. Don't quote me on the only point part, but both teams end up running the Symmetra throughout the map, but there's no like TP spot that you'd necessarily use at the start, so you just use it here. I was like, but what's the point of Symmetra? Like, why would you run Symmetra? That's stupid. Like, it's only good for a teleporter. Like, that's stupid. Why would you do that? But Symmetra actually works very well here with the Junkrat to use her right click. using Symmetra's right click. That sounds like a joke, but it can be actually, it ends up being very strong here with the spam damage, and that's why Sigma is popular here. And the turrets can work well to establish a stronger choke point for teams. So there's Junkrat. So we'll watch Ivy there for a second to see, kind of just see the power Junkrat. He's like a long range Reaper in some ways. He's very much better at establishing his own area, his own territory. So as you can see, Hisu rather is just spamming out the right clicks there, and then just the damage that can come out like so fast, and the spam, and then Rain gets caught. So it's just, and then the mines just bouncing everyone, causing chaos for everyone. You know, just, and then I mean KSP ends up getting him, but yeah, the chaos that the Junkrat can cause is very strong here. So well, it doesn't happen here, but the Junkrat, it can be very strong at the choke point, but I'll mention that when it happens, because there's no way it doesn't happen. So they end up getting through the choke point, and they end up making, just speaking all over the place. So the DPS get picked off, to my knowledge, before. So they come back. And Sato's kind of, he doesn't want to brawl necessarily. He's not looking like as you can see here, Sato's not, he's just like, no, nope. I'm not fighting you here. I'm waiting. He's kind of playing safe. And they're waiting for the coalescence. See if you notice there, you know, left you hanging. So they go for the coalescence here, and that's when Sato realizes, all right, I can go aggressive. And then he's just like, all right, I'm going. They're not using theirs. Shatter, let's go. And then Valiant get caught off guard, like, from the aggression, and they're not able to get any picks. And the damage, the focus damage from Fusion's DPS is significantly more. And it doesn't, they don't end up doing it here. But they're playing a very reserved style. But oh my god, yeah, it's just the damage that can come off. Like anything can kill you. If you're, see if I can get it here. So say Fusion are closer, you could, holding this area is so strong. Like if a team just like insists on coming through here, like just banging their heads against this, it's so hard to do. The Junkrat is so strong, like you'll just get bursted down, and you'll get an opportunity that's massive to push the team that's taking all the spam damage on this side. And it's very strong, and you can also go this way, so it's important to, you know, pay attention and be able to rotate here, and you can still catch a team on the rotate very well, and you keep them in check with the Junkrat. The Junkrat's a very strong pick here for that reason, or one of the reasons being. But this is a comp I run in my team, which is not any owl team. It's you know, bit less, but you know, 4K team, you know, a bit higher times, but around Grandmaster level team, and we run the comp that Valiant's running, and it works very well. And I don't have any gameplay to show you, so you have to use your imagination. But we look to play aggressive with our tanks at first, just to hold the space. We want to hold the space with our Reinhardt. Very strong. Like we'll go like we'll TP out like the teams did, or Valiant did here, and then we'll just look to play forward and just hold the space with our Reinhardt, and we keep him up, and then we just have the damage to support him, like not using a bubble to help him, but using the damage just to push them back so they can't really push against our Reinhardt. So we're just kind of like, the Reinhardt's just kind of crossing his arms, you know, in your face, and it's like, what are you gonna do about it? And the damage just comes out, and you just make the space for your DPS to to help the Reinhardt, and you just help him with damage. And the Baptiste is a very interesting pick, which Valiant just swapped to, and I like the Baptiste more than the Moira with this composition. Personally, Fusion, prefer the Moira in this instance. It works. Fair enough. They have a strategy with it. But I like the Baptiste, although he doesn't provide as much healing. He has the immortality field, which I very much like. To save the Reinhardt, so he can hold that ground. Give him a second chance of getting back up. And the window is very strong. It comes up every fight, pretty much, and you can use it for your Junkrat and the Symmetra and the Sigma to put out just an utterly disgusting amount of damage that you can use at the choke points here. So I like the Baptiste pick personally, but Fusion don't care. They end up getting a lot of picks here, and they get a shit ton of percentage from that. So Valiant can't come in. They're not able to take a fight here. It's already 50%, and then yeah, there's the damage and not really respecting. You just kind of have to get the fuck out. Like don't risk anything. And Moira orbs are coming out. Lucio primary fires. Like everything's just coming out. And 60% for the Valiant. Like McGravy comes in with the suck early just so they can get through. KSP comes in with the tire. Same for both sides. Ends up exploding early. It's also like they're playing back here, which is also their style here. So they can look to break the tire. If you play close and you're not going to be able to, you're too close, you need to back up to see the tire, or have someone be able to back up so they can see the tire coming at them for longer. Ivy gets the better one. Sato ends up juking out, and he just wants to stay alive. Like, oh, come on. Give me what I want. He gets bubbled. He charges out. He's not looking to take the brawl. He just wants to stay alive. And Funny Astro comes from up with amazing boop. He gets killed, but it doesn't matter. Like, Sato's just staying alive here and just having his DPS, and everyone else putting out a lot of damage. And they like the Zarya for that, and they like the Moira for that in this instance. Just to keep the Reinhardt alive. Yeah, Ivy gets the kill into Shaxx. And it all just crumbles here. Not necessarily as much of a longer map here, or instance of gameplay, but it's a difference of playing more of a reserved style on how Reinhardt can be adaptable a bit with the different off tanks that you can run with the Sigma, Zarya, and D.Va. I'll mention this. A lot of the time you would see Orisa Ryan. That doesn't work anymore because Orisa's bad. It's just simply doesn't provide the value anymore that other tanks that pair with her do. You definitely would have seen that. It's not worth to run. Like Sigma, Zarya, or D.Va just provide better value. So I mentioned that in case. I mean, it's been run before, but since Orisa's kind of it has been butchered. Taken out of the hero select screen, pretty much. It's not worth to run, but I hope from both of those examples, and that our longest episode, I guess, yet. Hopefully, you learned something. Hopefully, you can provide it to someone else. Say a friend, hey, look at this video. I learned this, or hopefully I provided some knowledge to you today, and hopefully you leave a like, or do all that shit if you feel appropriate to do so. And yeah, I'll get back to you with some more videos and streams when I can.